searches bridges, levitates towers, cloaks our hills in anonymity.
She caresses a host of moaning suitors that mark her hand's cool approach.
She embraces every spire, every neon fantasy, every solitary light.
She searches and touches all her children, her veil lowered. She softly counsels.
Seek.
Seek.
Our fog obscures the face of time, the details of memory.
The presence of military above the Golden Gate has existed continuously since 1776, when the first priority of the Spanish was the establishment of a presidio to secure their new bay. By the 1840s, the mission was crumbling, the presidio forgotten, and the third prong of Spain's outpost on the bay, tiny Yerba Buena, place of the good grass, slumbered.
We received our orders from Captain Montgomery. Amidst hurrahs, barking, braying, and general confusion, the Stars and Stripes floated proudly up, which has never yet been lowered to mortal foe.
Gold? Yes, I said gold.
Gold! Gold! Then ho, brothers, ho, it's off the work will go. Plenty of gold in the world will flow on the bank of the Sacramento. Hi-ho, and away we go, digging up the gold in San Francisco.
Every day, more ships arrived. You could walk across the water from deck to deck. Many, abandoned by the gold-hungry crews, became the first hotels, restaurants, and shops.
The streets are full of people, of as diverse and bizarre a character as the houses. Yankees, native Californians, Chinese, and others whose embrowned visages are impossible to recognize.
The typical garb is a heavy woolen shirt, canvas trousers held up by a sash, legs inserted in a pair of high-legged boots, and a slouch hat.
Inflation was rampant.
To induce some of the few women that are here to condescend to wash a man's socks, you have to court them. And besides, pay $6 a dozen.
The lure of easy wealth spawned unprecedented lawlessness. By 1852, the town had gone up in flames 6 times, mostly at the hands of arsonists. Gangs like the Hounds and Sydney Ducks roamed the streets and attacked at will. Corrupt officials turned their backs on an average of 2 murders a day. Finally, a respected committee of vigilance. And swift justice at the end of a rope. Long steel ribbon from coast to coast. It meant affluence to some, survival to others. For $3 to $5 a day, 3,000 sons of Erin, 10,000 celestials labored in desert heat and mountain snow. Completion sealed with a golden spike, the manifest destiny of 4 former shopkeepers turned railroad magnates.
Have for all practical purposes made San Francisco dead level. They take no count of rise or fall. They turn corners almost at right angles, and for aught I know, may turn up the sides of houses.
Tighten up a little bit. Let's get a little body contact. That's it. Hip to hip, cheek to cheek.
They usually try and crack little jokes here and there, you know. And they're usually very friendly, very helpful.
Time and support is for the room.
I think they're kind of crazy.
A couple clicks on the grip. A couple clicks on the track brake, then all the way back on the grip to make sure the grip has a tight hold on the cable. Then we have it set up to where we're going down the hill 9 miles an hour, which is cable speed.
There is no visible agency of their flight, but once in a while you shall pass a building humming with machinery, and the initiated will tell you that here is the mechanism.
Two big wheels over there, they're 14 feet in diameter. The cable comes in on the bottom and it figurates around the winders. That's where you get your traction. That's what motivates the cable.
If it pleases Providence to make a car run up and down a slit in the ground, why should I ask the reason for the miracle?
People do get so carried away and so foolish coming down that street. I suppose they're looking at the view because the view is magnificent from the crooked street.
In San Francisco, every time you drive down a street or look out a window or something, you see a panoramic view. It's all around you all the time.
The job is a kick. Wouldn't do anything else. I personally will not climb over the rail to grab somebody because I'm having a good time in my life and I don't want somebody to take me with them. But I believe if a person wants to, that's the place to do it. The Golden Gate Bridge is the bridge. The rest of the bridges are nothing but for transportation. This one you can go out and stand there and experience it.
Well, there was a lot of opposition to the Golden Gate Bridge because everybody thought that this fella Strauss, who'd undertaking to engineer the bridge, was an insane man.
Finally, after 16 years of campaigning, Joseph Strauss captured the city with his vision, and a bond issue allowed the enterprise to proceed. After 4 years battling surging tides, gales, and fogs, the bridge awaited opening. Strauss's detractors were silenced.
Why, they had a week of festivities, and they were playing Ring Around the Rosie on the bridge. And isn't this wonderful? Isn't this gorgeous? Isn't it? They thought it was their own idea.
Less than a year before, a sister event had taken place upon the inauguration of the Bay Bridge, spanning 4.5 miles from San Francisco to Oakland.
To show off her new bracelets, San Francisco threw a party, and in a typically extravagant manner first built the world's largest man-made island, dubbed Treasure Island. The architecture was officially described as Pacific Basin style, but Herb Cain nailed it as WPA Egyptian.
While leggy pirate-themed girls presumably recalled the mixed metaphors of Sir Francis Drake and Robert Louis Stevenson.
My theme girl of love, you are all I think of. You're the one light, the sunlight in my heart. You're my big thrill, always will be until the end of all time shall us part. Our hearts beat in time and our souls seem in rhyme. You're like heavenly music from above. You reign supreme and seem my theme of every dream and scheme. My dream girl, my theme girl of love.
The opening of the bridges and the closing of the fair signaled the end for the ferries, which at their peak had transported 100,000 commuters a day.
No longer would hotels provide little overnight packets with pajamas and soap for those who'd missed the last boat.
30 years later, a few ferries have been making a comeback.
Well, it's so much nicer getting in when you don't have to wait 20 minutes for the car in front of you to get going and bumper to bumper.
Well, I like being on the water. There's a lot more mobility on the boat. People are more congenial.
And where can you get a better body of water in the whole world to sail in?
Well, sailing in San Francisco Bay is more exciting than sailing any place else in the world. And the reason for that is that it blows like hell. The boat is throwing water all over the place, and if you've ever been hit in the face by flying spray at 20 miles an hour, it's quite an exciting thing.
locals thought it was inhabited by evil spirits, while their descendants staged an occupation protesting the loss of Aboriginal rights.
By the 1930s, however, Alcatraz had become the Rock, the most notorious maximum security penitentiary in the country. In its 29-year history, Alcatraz saw 39 escapes. 26 were returned, 6 shot, 7 presumed drowned in their desperate bid for freedom.
In the 1890s, fashionable surf bathers flocked to the great beach to loll about in the sun, and perhaps to retire for a lavish lunch at the Third Cliff House, built by Adolph Sutro above Seal Rocks in 1896.
However, San Francisco's most splendid illusion of grandeur was millionaire William Ralston's creation, the Palace Hotel.
In the words of Oscar Lewis, it was at least 4 times too large for its period and place, but San Francisco had never had a sense of proportion, so no one was disturbed.
You know, you walk into a hotel and there's action in the hotel. When I say action, I mean, you know, it's part of the life of San Francisco. And so therefore, I think your hotels reflect the ambiance of a city that really lives. This city truly lives.
Whatever other ingredients may enter into merrymaking in this capital of the Pacific, it's obvious that love and gluttony come first.
I would say elite clientele. People coming from Los Angeles just had dinner.
Most of the very well-known society people. Just everyone, really.
They're the #1 people in the world.
C'est un mélange de 1 litre de lait.
Masa se hace una salsa de tomate.
秘密がございますが、全部打ち明けられません。
100 grammi di pancetta.
И жарить на масле с обеих сторон до образования.
People who live in the Bay Area are restaurant freaks.
How much they know about food and wine, it's amazing. I love to take people up to wine country. I like to take people see the areas around San Francisco.
Saving these redwoods from the axe and saw, from the money changers and water changers, is in many ways the most notable service to God and man I have heard of since my forest wandering began.
Between 1863 and 1883, San Francisco received almost 2 billion board feet of lumber. It was cheap, resisted rot, termites, fire, and became putty in the hands of the city's millwrights.
I think it's a celebration of detail, and it's really exciting. There's some 13,500 Victorian houses out there.
The Victorians started out in polychrome splendor, but by the turn of the century, a more austere look became the fashion.
I think that was the color that all San Francisco houses practically were at that time. Every house was gray. Everything around us was gray. It was a gray city.
Since the psychedelic 60s, history's been repeating itself with a glorious vengeance.
Using more colors by far than the tailor who designed Joseph's coat. Exteriors are so gay that a Virginia creeper or wisteria would be bold indeed if it dared to set leaf or tendril there.
Comsan, Golden Mountain. That's California.
It used to be called, well, still is called by a lot of folks, it's Daifo.
San Francisco Chinatown.
Small as Chinatown is, it packs a great deal of history and meaning and sentiment for those of us who are 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation Chinese whose families settled here in San Francisco's Chinatown.
That's the one thing that they always celebrate Chinese New Year.
Pageant started in San Francisco, not China.
But then, Baghdad by the Bay has always been ready to go to a party.
Believes that we're all gay, straight, and or wavy. The more chosen we are, the more insanity in San Francisco is very blessed.
There's an attitude of doing things for your own reasons and accepting other people for doing things for their own reasons.
The people for me are the mad ones. The ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved. Desirous of everything at the same time.
You had a feeling. There was a feeling. You went into little cafes at night. You felt it. You sensed that it was there, you know. We were known as commies. So we were known as bohemian commies.
I pictured sitting up on top of a stool in a black turtleneck, snapping your fingers and reciting Ferlinghetti was San Francisco, you know. Hippies? What's a hippie?
And it wasn't, I didn't really focus until Haight-Ashbury.
I had to run away. I ran away in the middle of the night with some friends. Arrived in a car that said, "Make love, not war," all over it.
The most impressive thing of all was people walking along, eating some delicious little goodie, and sharing it with whoever came along.
So much goodwill and so much incredible belief in the fact that people could believe in each other's trips. It was an energy building thing, tremendously energy building. There'll be a love in there.
Said that if the flower children could maintain the way they were, it was quite beautiful, the world could be saved. But they also got caught into the mainstream. It's such a suctional force that it draws you in.
Biscuit bar still the same price, any amount.
The energy is still here in a certain degree that it was in the late 60s, but I think the economic survival has kind of put a bitter edge to it at this point. As street artists now, we have to still wage a constant battle towards maintaining our space to sell on the streets. The free spirit is being chased.
Fisherman's Wharf, listen to that. Fisherman, every time he gets daylight, I mean, even I don't care how old he is, he has to come down to the wharf. It's in your blood.
We didn't have no choice. You was a boy, the ocean's waiting for you.
I've had this boat now for 30 years, and I don't think there has been a crab season that I've ever missed.
In my days, we used to come in, and there's fish peddlers, horse and wagons. Used to come here, and they used to buy from the boat. And they used to go around the streets selling them, hollering. Fish peddler with the basket. All around Telegraph Hill, all them places.
Used to be, I live everybody in North Beach, my brother, me, but now not anymore. Me, I live in Marina, and my brother too.
North Beach is the heart and soul of San Francisco, and they know that out in the sunset, and they know that down in City Hall. To me, when the North Beach miracle happens, it's between people. It may be on the street, it may be in a bar.
Plain talking beautiful girls, really girly girls, no back numbers for the sweet and charming creatures has ever escaped a female seminary. If you won't want to risk both optics, shut one eye. Come to the Bella Union.
Showtime, it's bubblegum for the eye. Good, clean, filthy family fun. Drag them in here, honey. Show them a good time. Get them food decorated. You're walking with your hands in your pocket. You can try to get some light out.
I've seen purer liquors, better cigars, finer tobacco, truer guns and pistols, larger dirks and bowie knives, and prettier courtesans here in San Francisco than in any other place I have ever visited. And it's my unbiased opinion that this town can and does furnish the best bad things that are obtainable in America.
Francisco is not a laid-back audience. I think it's an audience that has their ears pushed forward a little bit.
I think San Francisco is probably as sophisticated and cultured a city of its size as there is in the world.
In the old days, the opera opened to cover the 4 or 5 pages. Every gown was described. People who worked in shops cared. Phone operators cared. But nobody really cares anymore.
The town just loved Caruso. He was singing here on the night of the big earthquake. He never came back.
It was just breaking day. I was awakened by this loud, thunderous roar. This first roar lasted 50 seconds continuously. And then there was a pause.
The whole street was undulating like the walls of the ocean were coming towards me, billowing as they came.
As if the earth were slipping away from under our feet. There was a sickening sway, and we were all flat on our faces.
The streets were full of people, half-clad, disheveled, but silent, absolutely silent.
We met some boys running around. They said, you should go up on top of the hill and see it. Said the city is all on fire.
By 6 o'clock, the bitter truth is out. The mains are broken. Nothing but an impotent trickle of muddy water gurgles from the open hydrants.
The mayor's first order, close the saloons. His second, shoot looters on sight. At 1, the dynamiting begins, spreading the fire it hopes to stifle.
2 o'clock, south of the slot is gone. The business district smolders.
3:30, the palace is engulfed. An era passes.
Midnight, 10,000 Chinese flee. The Barbary coast in flames. The Mission District is burning.
Dawn of the 19th sees the last of the Nob Hill palaces. The newly completed Fairmont is gutted. Still the fire burns.
Across Russian Hill.
Creeping toward North Beach.
Up Telegraph Hill.
It's early afternoon, but it could be dawn, dusk, anytime. There's just flame, noise, hell. The whole city's drowning in flame.
On the 20th, a valiant and successful effort to save the wharfs. A plan to blast wide a last line of defense along Van Ness.
Saturday morning. The wind changes.
A few hours later, it begins to rain.
It is over.
It's an act of God. What do you do?
Watch it and try to avoid the cracks. What do I know?
I'll just go along with the shake.
It's going to happen or it's not going to happen, and I'm living here whether it happens or not.
I think I remember the exact day and the exact minute that I decided to live here. I was struck with the quality of the light.
This is as far as west goes. That's where the trains turn around. That's why I came here, because it is as far as you can go without getting on a boat.
It's my spiritual home, and I belong here.
People are not afraid of doing new things, of experiencing new things, of knowing new things. That's what makes living here so special. And San Francisco is not a city of compromise. It's not acceptable to compromise your life. The only thing that seems to be acceptable is to enjoy your life today. And that's a nice place to be.
I wouldn't leave San Francisco.